Hello everyone, it's Becca from Becca Books and Bujo, and today we are talking about all of the books I read in August. I read 11 things in August, and I'm semi-excited to tell you about them. I really hate reading wrap-ups, but I'm ready to do it. Let's jump into some stats. So, like I said, 11 books were completed, and that added up to 3,862 pages. Yes, I have my notes over here. So sorry if you see me looking to the right. For the genres that these books encompassed, 1 was a fantasy, 3 were historical fiction, 1 was a horror, and 6 were romance. As for the audience that these books are geared toward, 7 of them were adult and 4 of them were young adult. No middle grades this month. And lastly, the format in which I consumed these books. 6 of them were strictly physical, 3 of them were strictly audio, 1 was an ebook, and 1 was a combination between physical and audio. The average rating for the month was a 4.13, which sounds pretty good, but 4 of the books, the Heartstopper, volumes 1 through 4, were 5 stars, and if you take out these, because these were rereads, and I loved them just as much as I did the first time, but if you take out these 5-star reads, my average rating was a 3.71, which seems a little low. I didn't feel like it was a super great reading month. A lot of 3s and 4s, obviously, for the 3.71 rating, but it wasn't a phenomenal reading month. My only 5 stars were rereads. Was a little sad. So we're just going to talk through these books in the order that I read them. And the first 4 books I read in the month of August were the Heartstopper volumes 1 through 4. I'm not going to talk much about these. I have a spoilery reading vlog where I read all of these and watched seasons 1 and 2 of the Netflix show. I'll link that up above. This is a lovely romance between 2 high school boys in England. Nick and Charlie are their names. They discover a lot about themselves, about their sexuality, about who they are, and there's also some struggles with mental illness and questioning. So, super good. Love them. I gave them 5 stars on a reread. Okay, the next book I finished was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This was a little bit of a disappointment when I compare it to Part of Your World, which I read earlier this year by Abby Jimenez. This is the companion to Part of Your World, where we follow a character from the original Part of Your World. So this one is about Brianna, who is friends with Alexis from Part of Your World, and she is a doctor at a hospital in Minneapolis. I love that these books take place in Minnesota/Iowa. Anyway, she's a doctor in Minneapolis. She is about to be promoted to be the chief of the emergency department. And all of a sudden, that is stripped away from her when this new doctor comes, and the original chief of the department says, I want to give him a chance to possibly run for the new chief position. And so she's really upset by that, hates this guy, and then they start writing letters to each other. The first letter is an apology from the guy to the gal. What's the guy's name? Jacob Maddox. He wrote a letter to her apologizing for what he didn't really know, but he was really sweet. And so they started this correspondence, and they kind of strike up a friendship at first, and then they both realize they need a significant other for an event going on in the future, and they decide to start fake dating, which we all know how fake dating works. It always ends up being that there are real feelings involved, and this obviously happens for both Brianna and Jacob, and I just wish that they could have communicated, used their words a little bit more, so that they could have started their relationship so much sooner. I gave this book a 4-star. I really loved the characters of Brianna and Jacob. I liked the sexual tension that they had, but I just was annoyed by how drawn out the miscommunication was. And I get it. It's a romance. There's supposed to be miscommunication, especially in fake dating tropes, but it just really upsetted me how long the miscommunication went. So that was yours truly. I really like Abby Jimenez. I loved Part of Your World, probably one of my favorite romances now of all time. I enjoyed the Happy Ever After playlist. I listened to that one a few years ago, and now I want to check out some of her other older books. The next book I completed in August was Peace Like a River by Leif Inger, and wow, I was definitely ready to not finish this book. I was going to give up on it, set it aside, probably never read it again. But this was my pick for my friend's book club, and so I felt obligated to read it. What to say? I wish I could have read the last 10% of this book before I read the first 90% of the book, because I think I would have had a much greater appreciation for the first 90% of the book and the book as a whole if I kind of had that foreknowledge. I don't know. It had some really interesting themes, but it just really didn't pull me in at the beginning. But I loved the ending. So, okay, let me just say, this is a story about a father and his 3 children. He is raising them on his own in a small town in Minnesota. Something terrible happens. Let me see. I'm not giving this away, am I? Yeah, so this is in the description. So the oldest son kills 2 people, and he has to run away from the law, run away from the police, run away from all of his troubles. And the father and the 2 other kids go and try to find him. It's kind of this epic adventure, but so dull. Like, it's not that exciting. So, but I don't think that's the point. I think the point is the relationship between the father and his children and what this father would do for his children, which has this greater analogy to God and what he would do for God's children. I think that's what it's going for. And at the very last chunk of this book made me like it a lot more than my original DNF that it was going to be. So I ended up giving this 3 stars, and I think upon a reread, I would enjoy it a little bit more, knowing what I know at the end, which I don't want to give away to you. So that is Peace Like a River. Next up, I read The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. This is a romance, which I had no clue it was a romance. I don't know. The Bridges of Madison County doesn't scream romance to me, but it is a romance between 2 older people. Robert is a photographer for National Geographic, and he is set on an assignment to go photograph the bridges of Madison County, these covered bridges. And he stops to get directions in this small town of Iowa and ends up falling in love with the woman he asks for directions. I did not appreciate that there was some adultery going on, but I did really like the writing and the relationship that they were able to create. She was in a really unhappy marriage, and I think both the husband and the wife knew that they were unhappily married. And so I'm not going to say that that's okay that there was cheating going on, but it was a little better, if that makes sense. And there was some remorse, definitely, with the fact that she cheated. So I'm going to say that that is okay. Even though in the real world, I would not say that that is okay. Anyway, I just really enjoyed the writing of this. A lot of people mentioned in the vlog that I read this in that I should watch the movie, and I definitely will give it a chance. I believe it's some big name actors. Meryl Streep, is she in it? I was right. Meryl Streep and Clint Eastwood. So pretty big cast. Anyway, I think it's based off of a true story, ? And basically, I just like the atmosphere of this small town, and now I want to visit these covered bridges because I think they're real. And I probably don't live that far away from them, living in Minnesota. Okay, that was this book. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second in A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I picked this one up because my sister was reading ACOTAR at the time and then jumped right into ACOMAF, and I was like, I miss it. I kind of miss ACOTAR. And so I jumped in to read ACOMAF with my sister. We kind of chatted about it as we went, compared where each other was in the story. And I don't know how much I need to describe this one. It was an enjoyable time. We follow Feyre. In ACOTAR, she was basically stolen into the Fae world because she killed a wolf and she had to pay for her debts. This was a terrible, bad thing that she did, killing this wolf. And she was taken away by this beast, kind of like Beauty and the Beast, taken away by Tamlin, and ultimately fell in love with this beautiful Fae creature. Things go down in ACOTAR at the end of ACOTAR that I can't really say, which affect ACOMAF, but all I can say is I was there for it. 4 stars. Not like obviously best of the best, but still an enjoyable story. And I really want to pick up ACOWAR, A Court of Wings and Ruin, soon. I'm actually hoping to get to it in September because it ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I want to hear what happens with Feyre and Tamlin and Rhysand and the whole crew. I really like them, and I'm not a big fantasy girly, but I enjoyed this fantasy. Next up, I read Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. I am not going to talk too much about this book because I have a video upcoming, my final favorite booktubers favorite video, where I read my favorite booktubers favorites from 2022 and talk about them. See if we mesh in our enjoyment of books. And Ring Shout is this like magical realism, horror, fantastical, historical book. And I just don't think horror, or this kind of horror, was for me. It's basically, we're back in the 1910s when Birth of a Nation, the movie, came out, and when it came out, it kind of like cast this spell on whoever watched it, turned them into Ku Klux monsters. So basically, Ku Klux Klan members were actual monsters, these beings that ate you and fought you and whatever. And we are following Maurice, which she is like the head Ku Klux monster fighter. I liked the overall message, and that's why I ended up giving it 3 stars, but it was just too horrific for me. Yeah, I'll talk more about it in an upcoming video, so make sure you subscribe to see my full thoughts if you're interested. Okay, next up is The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger. I got this advanced reader's copy from Nick Galley, so thank you to the publishers for that. I just love William Kent Kruger's writing. He knows how to tell a story. He's so good. He's such a good writer. He creates wonderful characters, wonderful settings, and he's just really great. So this new book that is actually out now, so you can get yourself a copy. My actual physical copy is coming in the mail, I think, tomorrow, is about this small town of Jewel, Minnesota. One day, in this small town, a man washes up on the river that flows through this county. And this notorious man is Jimmy Quinn. He is known to be a bad guy in the town of Jewel, and he washes up on the shores of the Alabaster River, half eaten by catfish. That's like all within the prologue and first chapter, which is super interesting. Interesting way to start, especially one of William Kent Kruger's books. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I haven't read any of the Cork O'Connor series, which is his mystery series, but I have read This Tender Land and Ordinary Grace, and those are much more just like historical fiction, telling a great story, not so much any mystery or thrilling aspects. But this is thrilling. Well, at least that first chapter is. then we just kind of dive into Jewel, Minnesota, and we get into the minds of so many different characters, what they thought of Jimmy Quinn, and if he deserved to die, if he didn't. Yeah, and just we get to see these inner workings of Jewel. You felt like you were in the town and next to the Alabaster River, and I don't know, really enjoyed it. The characters were there, the setting was there, the plot, while it was good, it was just a little bit slow moving for me. So that's why I ended up giving it 4 stars. Not my favorite of William Kent Kruger's. I think if I had to rate them, it would be This Tender Land, The River We Remember, and then Ordinary Grace. Still really enjoyed it. And like I said, just felt like I was totally immersed in this small town, but just a little slow. I do want to share one quote from the book, which I happened to put on my Neck Alley review because just I love the way he talked about this. Where do I find? So just kind of about why this book was called The River We Remember. I just think it's so beautiful. I love to find the snippet in the book that leads to the title, and this is what it says. Our lives and the lives of those we love merge to create a river whose current carries us forward from our beginning to our end. Because we are only one part of the whole, the river each of us remember is different, and there are many versions of the stories we tell about the past. In all of them, there is truth, and in all of them, a good deal of innocent misremembering. And reading The River We Remember shortly after Peace Like a River, I just saw such great comparisons with the river and our lives. And yeah, okay. That's all I have to say about The River We Remember. And the last book I finished in August was Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is a mythological telling. Is that what it's called? It's not a retelling, a mythological story of Kaikeyi, who was a goddess in India, in the village, in the land of Kaikeyi, the kingdom of Kaikeyi. I don't know what I'm saying. And we just basically get her whole life in this book. The coolest thing I think about Kaikeyi is that she is able to enter into the binding plane by saying this mantra, and she is able to see the connections between people, the connection she has with people and the connection between others, and it's like this string, this bond, and she can kind of pull on that bond a little bit to get her way, or sometimes you see that bond completely breaking when something terrible and tragic happens to the people in her life. I don't know much about the story of Kaikeyi or Ram or Bharat, but reading this book leads me to want to look more into that story and why Kaikeyi is kind of notorious for how she got her son into power in, what's the town? The kingdom, not Kaikeyi, but wherever she moves to and becomes a queen of. Anyway, do I have more to say? It was exciting. I actually started this book back in October of 2022 and softy and F'd it. It just wasn't feeling like the right book for me at the time, but I'm very glad I picked it up again. It honestly reminded me of other mythological stories like the Song of Achilles or Circe. It just had that same vibe because we were looking into the lives of these mythological people and seeing the inner workings of their lives. So really, really enjoyed this one. I liked the battle scenes where Kaikeyi was able to participate, even though she was a woman. And I also enjoyed the strength that she was able to show other women that she could have, and then prove to them that they could also have strength and do more than just be the wives, be the mothers. They could have power in their lives too, and over their lives. So enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4-star. Like I said, this was, just kind of a middle of the road reading month, besides my Heartstopper rereads, but not any super amazing books. Very good books, very good storytelling and characters that I enjoyed. but just not any phenomenal favorites. So anyway, these are the books I read in August. Let me know if you've read any of them. And if you agree with me on my thoughts or disagree, it would be great to have some bookish conversation with you in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video on your way out. Consider subscribing to my channel, again, if you'd like to see more bookish and bullet journaling content from me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!